Everybody is tempted by what he loves the most or what he was addicted to. In this video, I'll be talking to us about the temptations that came to me like a flood after my divine encounter. Please, I need you to subscribe to this channel so that you will be able to follow up my story from how I was initiated to this very point. Hi, my name is Excellence Madoka. I am a life coach and an ex-campus cultist in Nigeria. I started my story of how I was initiated into cult and all the incidents that I went through as a cultist, things that almost took my life. I talked about the reasons why a lot of young people join cults and how you can identify a cultist. And I also talked about the, the dangers behind cultism. And I began my journey out of cultism, how God delivered me, how I had an encounter, a divine encounter with God. And after that encounter, it was as if, all hell, went loosed against me. And I began to receive several temptations. The last video I talked about the, you know, how the first time I was arrested and I was thrown into cell for the first time after all my escapade in court. The first time I was arrested, it was immediately after my temptation. And you can imagine after, that incident, something began to tell me that these guys, if I was still where I was, I would have organized my men to come and, but I looked at it that at this point I've burnt the bridge behind me. I cannot go back to them. So I was trying to build up myself, preparing myself to go back to school, preparing myself, to, to stand out completely. Now, one of the greatest temptations that I encountered was temptation of sexual, will I call it sexual harassment, or um, my actions, with women. The first encounter was after that, my divine encounter. One of the sisters in church that led me, that was there when it happened to me, that was always following me up. She became so sympathetic to me and she began to follow me up. The first Bible that I got, she was the one that bought that Bible for me. So few days to the time I was to go back to school, though I was still afraid to go back to school, not knowing what I'm going to face, not knowing how I'm going to tell my guys that, see, I'm no longer with them, I've been delivered. So you understand me? Now, she came to me and said she wanted to give me a treat. And she took me to, a resort place, a quiet hotel where we got there. She bought a lot of things for me. We began to drink, we began to, tell, in fact, we're trying to catch up with so many things. And all of a sudden, she she told me that she was tired, that she wanted to take a nap. Eh, As an old cowboy, I understood what she meant. So I encouraged her the more. What we did, we now went and we booked for a room. Immediately as we booked for that room, we entered into that room. And before you knew what was happening, one thing led to another. And lo and behold, I had sex with her. And that, as I came down from her, I felt this remorse in my spirit. I felt that something has gone wrong. So I sat down and I began to cry. I began to sob. And she herself, she also felt sorry. She was so sorry. She was remorseful. To her, she said, this is the person that she was helping. This is the person that she saw, had an encounter with God, and she's the one now wanting to pull him out. Now, but you see, one thing that happened to me that time, immediately I bent my head. As I bent my head, you know, in that remorseful state, I had in my spirit clearly. It was so clear in my spirit. He said, beware of the sisters in church. They are the ones that has the capacity to bring you down. There are many in church, so beware of them. And that formed, a guide for me. So when I went back to school, after I'd gone through, the trying to let my people know, my ex colleagues know that I'm no longer with them. After I went back to school, and I began to get involved in fellowship. And a week after I came back to school, I received the baptism of the Holy Spirit. I was empowered. And that empowerment came to me, and it gave me power to be able to, resist this temptation. But the temptations, they kept coming. Sisters, they were coming, they were flooding around me. One other incident that happened in school after I came back, after I received the baptism of the Holy Spirit, there's this particular sister that was always coming. She was always coming because now at this point I had become popular in school because a lot of fellowship, they were inviting me to share my story. My story was so peculiar because of that incident that happened that took the life of my friend. So after I gave my life to Christ, after I came back, I shared my testimony in one of the programs, and so I became popular in school. So every fellowship that is organizing any program, they will invite me to come and share my testimony, even outside school. So that is how my popularity began to grow in amongst the Christians in school. So this particular sister, she kept following me. She kept following me. So each time she comes to my room, because I remember that one of the things that my roommates, the first day I came back and I told them that I was born again, or when I invited them to that program where I gave my testimony, and they got to know who I was, because then they didn't know. The only thing the only thing that they could pinpoint, the only thing that they can pinpoint about me is that I was coming in with different women, with sleeping with different women, even in my room there. But they didn't know. So when I came and told them that I was born again, that I'd received Christ, that I've had my encounter, and they said that the reason why I'm saying this is because most of those girls, they don't know that I'm back to school. So each time that this particular sister follows me to my room, I ensure that I don't want to give them that notion that I'm still into women, because it was like a stigma to me. You understand me? So seeing me with a woman, they will just look back at my at my past, that this guy is still following women. So I was careful. Each time she comes, I will let her teach me songs, so that they will know that we are doing Christian things. We are not, playing around. Now, this particular time, that period, it was during examination period. So that period, everybody had finished their exam. I had a course that I carried over, so I needed to write that course. So that made me stay behind. But everybody had finished exam, and she herself, she had finished her own exam. So she was supposed to have gone back home, but I didn't know why she was waiting. So everybody had gone home, even in my room. All my roommates, I was the only person in that room. Even my neighbors, everybody. In each time you come to that, everywhere is so quiet. So that one day I was inside the room, she came into the room. As she came into that room, she sat by me. And as she sat by me, somehow my body system began to react. Now remember, you are only tempted with what you love the most, or what you were addicted to. you know so my body system began to my she you know I she began to seduce me. What will I say? What I was the one seducing, but I felt that seductive spirit. So she was coming close to me. I was almost trying to grab her. She was coming. I was grabbing her. I was coming to I almost wanted to grab her. Immediately as I said, immediately as I wanted to grab her, I just had a knock on my door. And as that knock came, we repositioned ourselves. So I went to open the door. Lo and behold, it was a brother Wosley, that I just saw him. He came out. And as he came, he saw the position at this new brother that gave his life to Christ and this sister. So he sat back. He told me that as he was going to check on somebody, something told him to come to my room. He has never been to my room before. That was the first time for him to come to my room. So he just came. And as he came, he sat down. He sat down there. So he sat down for long. We began to gist. The sister waited and waited and waited. So she got disappointed. As she got disappointed, she left. As she left, Anna knelt and I said, Browsley, thank God you are the one that just saved me. If not, oh boy, I don't finish. This girl, in fact, and that was how I overcame that temptation. Now I discovered one thing. Every time you overcome a temptation, you move a step forward in your spiritual life. Every time you overcome a temptation, you move a step forward in your spiritual life. So that thing gave me courage. It gave me courage that by the next time she came, she repeated the following day, and I looked at her. I told her, please, you cannot stay in my room. Please, you cannot. Please go, leave now. So I had that courage, I had that boldness to be able to resist her. So that was, one of the things that almost, took my salvation. And severally. So I began to have several temptations from women, and all that began to follow. Now, another thing, remembered in my first video, I told us how I was sexually abused by my house help, how the spirit of immorality entered me, and how I became addicted to pornography, and became addicted to masturbation. Now, that was one of the struggles, one of the greatest struggles that I had, masturbation. Even growing as a Christian. And Satan will always come to me. Satan will always, whisper in my ear. Now, masturbation is not, after all, you are not doing it with a girl. So I found out that I was still masturbating, even as a Christian. I found out that I was still struggling with that to deal with that area of my life. I don't know why I'm saying this. There is somebody that is listening to me. You are still, struggling with that addiction. You are still struggling with that area of your life. Even as a Christian right now, there is something you are still struggling with. I struggled with masturbation. So one of the things that helped me, how, I finally broke out from that masturbation, it became each time I indulge in this act, I feel so dirty. I feel so worthless. And Satan was using it to bring me down. Satan was using it to suppress, my spirit. So one day, I just met a brother and I told the brother, I said, this is what I'm going through. Each time you expose your weakness, strength comes in. I repeat it. Each time you expose your weakness, strength coming. So I exposed that weakness. I told this brother, this is what I'm facing. This is what I'm going through. I've been born again. I am serving. I am doing all manner of things. But this area of my life, I was still having this temptation. I was still struggling with this. And all he told me, the first thing he told me is, hand it over to God. Hand that weakness to God. And in your weakness, God's strength will be made perfect. So ordinarily, I didn't take it that way. So it became a prayer point. It became a burden, and I began to pray about it. And as I continued to pray about it, all of a sudden, that addiction left me completely. That desire left me. So I became completely free from masturbation. And I understood how to follow the sisters in church. So each time I sense any form of seduction, I'll boldly, not in love, I'll boldly rebuke you, or I stay clear from you. And this is how, I continued. This is how I continued, facing one temptation or the other. Then another temptation that came was, someone will ask, now when you left, did they try to kill you? uh, Remember I told us in one of the video how we trailed a young man that came to school and told us that he was no longer doing that, he wants out, and that is now a Christian. And we began to follow him. And as we began to follow him, we discovered that he was compromising, that he was not actually, living the life that he claimed that he. So that was a lesson to me. That was a lesson. So I ensured that there was no compromise. I made sure that if they come looking for me, they will not find anything against me. If they come for me, they will not find anything. So I became committed to the fellowship in school. In my fellowship, where I got baptized in the Holy Spirit, they made me the organizing secretary. So I was in charge of the equipment. I'm always in church. I'm always the first person to go to fellowship. I go to fellowship. I set the equipment for them. I'm always the last person to leave there, because after the fellowship, I'll have to, take back the equipment, the sound system, and place it back where it belongs. So, I sensed it that they were monitoring me. I sensed it that they were following me, but they found nothing against me. They knew that my conversion was genuine. They knew that I was not compromising. They knew that everything, and each time, now, because I was in charge of this equipment. So sometimes I take speakers, I go to the center of where they meet. I place my and I begin to preach to them. I begin to preach to so many of them, and that they could not. They saw that see, people say when they come out of court, they harass them. They harass you because you are compromising. They harass you because you don't know who you are. You don't know the spirit that you carry. We served the devil. I served the devil with all my heart, and devil, Satan did not give me anything. But the moment I switched to God, I felt the power and the glory of God. I felt God's glory all over me. So I was not compromising at all. Each time they look for me, I was not. Now, how did I get to know some of them that finally got born again, that are my friends right now? They were telling me that each time they go for their meeting and they plan, because I was exposing a lot of things. I was talking too much. Each time I go for program, I say so many things, and several times they want me not to say some of the things, but I couldn't help it. I was trying to help them. I'm not saying it because I'm not even making this video now because I want to be popular. I know I'm not making this video right now because I want people to know me. I'm making this video because I need to help you. Whatever, if you are in court already, I need to help you. You need to understand that there is the only way to get out of court is by death or by Christ. And I chose to get out of court by Christ. They looked for me. They looked for things to hold me, but they couldn't, because I did not compromise. I understood what it was. I understood what it meant to serve God with all my heart. I began to serve God. So they were looking for me. So each time they go for their meeting, according to one of them that told me after he gave his life to Christ, each time they go for their meeting, I was their topic. I was their topic, and this guy is talking too much. Let's bring him down. And he said that every time they plan to bring me down, every time they go for their meeting and they raise up my topic, as they are planning, somehow confusion will just come into their midst. One person will just say, "Oh boy, leave this guy." Somehow, and that is how they did over and over and over until I graduated from that school. And even when I graduated from the school, I started coming back. I was still coming back to the school, and none of them. Those temptations came. Those temptations came. Temptations will surely come. But you see, each time you overcome any temptation, you will be moved to the next level in your spiritual life. And God helped me all this while. I was in school. I managed every temptation. And another temptation that I had to deal with was anger. I remember one of the traits of a cultist is hostility and violence. Hostility and violence. So, I I I struggled with anger. One day it was exposed to me. In my next video, I'm going to tell you the story of how, anger almost took away, what I encountered. How anger almost, ruined my my testimony, and God helped me in all. So I need you to still come back. I have a lot to tell you. Please, if you have not watched any of my videos, ensure that you go back, and as you subscribe to this channel, you'll be able to see from the beginning where I started, how and where I am today. Don't forget, if you have not subscribed, please subscribe to this channel. Also, like this video, comment on this video. In fact, your comment is very important. I know a lot of people have a lot of questions at this point. From what I said, I know so many of you have so much questions to answer, to ask, and I'm ready to answer you on the comment section. Please don't forget, once again, subscribe to this video, to this channel, like this video, comment, and also press the notification bell after you have subscribed, so that as I drop more videos, more things will be coming out. Very soon, we're going to be having a podcast where we are bringing in people that, have similar story with me. Probably you might be one of my guests, you that is listening. But our podcast is starting very soon. We're going to be airing our podcast every Friday. By the time we start, you get to hear the stories. I'm not the only one. There are so many people, that God has freed, and they want to share their story. It is called Free Souls Podcast. So watch out for that podcast and you'll be richly blessed. Once again, subscribe to this channel, like this video, comment, and God will bless you. Remember, stand out, don't blend.